So welcome to this parallel session, Indigenous Perspectives on and Expertise within Climate Change, Justice, Technology and Science. So we're a parallel session of this Climate Existence Symposium today at Uppsala University. And we had 51, I think, registered participants online, and we have a few in the room as well here. So welcome everyone. Thank you for coming and joining us. And we have the panelists, a few online as well. I'm just going to start introducing what we're doing today. So we'll have an introduction by Vanessa Masterson and Hanna Sinare, short then, and then followed by a film introduced by me, and then we'll have a presentation by Inger Groik. She's a reindeer owner and chair of the Ginjavara Sámi village in Jämtland County. And then we'll have short presentations of our master students who are interns or working with us in our projects, and followed by comments by Eva Forsgren, who is here, Henrik Andersson, who is online with Hampus Andersson as well, and Eva Charlotta Helsdotter, who's joining us online from Gotland. And then the plan is we will have time for questions and answers. And we're going to manage this hybrid session. It's exciting. I will have to thank you, the students, especially Batsorik here and Naeem, who's been helping out, figuring this out. We've been practicing a lot on this, and the students have been practicing. So really grateful for all your work. Yeah, and with no further ado, I'll leave the floor to Hanna.
Thank you, May-Britt. I will first give the word to Vanessa.
Thank you so much, Hanna and May-Britt. Can you hear me okay?
But I don't have your slides. Here we go.
Great. Hi, everybody. My name is Vanessa Masterson. I'm from Stockholm Resilience Centre. I'm so happy to join you today. Today, I'm going to talk about a FORMAS-funded research project that I lead called Powering Change with Justice. You may change the slide. The transition from fossil fuels to renewable energy, such as wind energy, is a critical strategy for the societal transformation that we need to combat climate change. And the EU's goal to transition to a fully clean energy matrix by 2050 is very ambitious. And Sweden has a clear strategy to reach those goals, including expanding wind energy. And that's what we're here to talk about today. So today, wind energy is the third largest energy source in Sweden, with half of energy produced in the northern regions overlapping with Indigenous Sámi population's territory. But research from around the globe is also showing the disproportionate impacts of wind industrial developments and utility scale infrastructure on Indigenous and local peoples. There are multiple negative impacts: social, cultural, spiritual, health, economic, and ecological impacts. So in its current form, wind energy expansion risks keeping us on a path of environmental degradation and human rights abuses. So our project studies these intertwined impacts on local and Indigenous people and nature in Sweden and Brazil. In both countries, there has been this history of landscape change and displacement of Indigenous and traditional peoples, for example, due to hydropower and mines. And so for Indigenous people in these places, wind power projects are another wave of extractivism and continue this painful legacy of historical settler colonial conflicts. Please change the slide. So the aim of our project is to examine the effects of wind energy projects on the territorial rights, sovereignty, and ways of life of Indigenous and local peoples. And beyond that, to really try to surface new transformative visions for just energy transitions. So we do this by looking at case studies in northern Sweden and in northeast Brazil. And you'll hear a lot more about that from our colleagues and interns a bit later. So we explore the intertwined social and ecological effects of the wind energy expansion. We are assessing how Indigenous rights and perspectives are included in policies, and we are trying to mobilize Indigenous perspectives to understand the impact of wind energy expansion on not only the rights of people, but also our relationships with land. So how are we going to do this? And I hand over to Hannah to tell us more. Thank you.
Yes, so I'm Hanna Sinari, and I'm a researcher at Stockholm Resilience Centre, co-researcher in this project. So to structure the project, we draw on a framework by Tengö and colleagues on how to weave different complementary knowledges together. So we work to mobilize these complementary knowledges about different aspects of the wind energy transition or wind energy developments and its consequences. So the yellow thread that you can see in the figure is analysis of energy and finances flows. The blue thread of knowledge is policy analysis, so how, particularly focusing on inclusion of human rights and environmental justice in policy documents. And the red thread of knowledge is mobilizing Sámi and Kulambola perspectives and knowledges on current impacts and alternative futures. So throughout the project, we weave these knowledges together in a continuous process of learning, negotiation, and synthesis of knowledges, and also engaging local artists in surfacing insights and mediating viewpoints amongst these different knowledge systems. And we want to acknowledge our core team of researchers. So May-Britt is here. Lisa is not in the core team, but in the advisory team that we also acknowledge. Amanda and Michelle Lee are online also with us. So yes, we also have this advisory team based across Sweden and Brazil. And today we are happy to introduce our interns and students from Stockholm and Uppsala Universities. And part of our work in the project is to build capacity for students to do research in service of indigenous communities. So the students and interns, they will now soon bravely present their work in progress, and we hope to gather feedback from the audience, from you, for what they can work with as they go forward. So as you have heard, the session will be recorded to be used in our research, so you are part of our weaving of knowledges in that process. And the recording may also be published online. So thank you for joining us, both here in the room and online today. I will give the word back to May-Britt.
Thank you. So I'm introducing the film on green wind energy, perspectives on the Storlandet power project in Gällivare Forest Sámi territory. It was recorded in 2020. I will just give a short introduction here. So it's on the film, you will see Henrik Andersson, reindeer within Gällivare Forest Sámi village, speak about the environmental destruction caused by Swedish state through forestry practices by the state-owned forest company Sveaskog, as well as the planned wind energy in the industrial area by the state power company Vattenfall. And he speaks also what a health forest should look like. And this area is one out of 2 large project areas for wind power within Gällivare Forest Sámi village, Storlandet, which will be on the ancestral ground of his family. And the status now is that in September 2025, Vattenfall submitted an application for environmental permit to the Land Environment Court at the Umeå District Court. And as far as I understand, the municipality, this is Gällivare, I believe, have the right. What happened with the camera? It's my laptop. Oh, okay, good. just see that. Yeah, so as Gällivare municipality has the possibility to veto wind power. We'll hear more about this, what's happening. I also want to tell that the Swedish state and European Union actors within energy market, environmental organization, and climate activists tend to insist in the promotion of wind power as green, fossil-free, and thereby environmentally friendly. As you can understand, we're not agreeing on this. It's actually destructive and not fossil-free at all. We have a film on that, but that's too long to be here. And we will have some talks on the so-called green wind power. A major part of the wind power projects are planned for in Sámi reindeer herding territories, and that's land that was stolen by the Swedish state from Sámi during late 19th and early 20th century, the so-called Sámi tax lands. And as we're on a climate existence day here, I want to mention the idea that we're on the apocalypse, the abyss, or whatever. This has been the case for indigenous people since 500 years, where settler colonialism has spread around the world, destroying lands, deporting, killing off indigenous people, extracting. And now the global warming is used as an argument to reinforce genocide and deportation of indigenous people, of land grabbing. And as we heard Eva Forsgren mention in the panel just before, that it's maybe time now to start listening to indigenous people's experiences and knowledges, and also include indigenous peoples in decision making. And I would say also for Uppsala and universities in Sweden and Europe to actually make space for indigenous peoples to hold positions in universities, which is not the case here. I will speak briefly here. This, if we're looking from the North Pole southwards, and this is an old map illustration of SING Sábme from Sámi Parliament website. It's no longer there, but it's I think it's great showing the northern perspective. But I just want to make a heads up. This is what you can see here is the reindeer herd. Today's reindeer herding territory, and Sábme is where Sámi live and have lived. And Sámi have actually lived all over this territory since the last ice age. So we have archaeological findings, place names from around this area. We know that their Sámi have lived around, and Sámi still live. There are vibrant Sámi communities in the southern parts still. And I also want to point at the Sámi view on relationships to lands, waters, non-humans that differ from the Western modern exploitation view. If you have studied any environmental history, you know about Caroline Merchant mentioning that's the scientific revolution about the 1600s. That's when started this detachment of lands and relationships, and where it has stayed with indigenous peoples. And we can see on the Sámi Parliament environmental program stating that all questions are environmental questions, and the Sámi have a view of nature as animated, a living being that is in strong contrast to the Western view of nature. Just to mention reindeer herding, we have it. It's not only in Sámi territories; it's around the world. It's the only semi-domesticated animal in the north. We have 24 reindeer herding peoples in the world, around 3.4 million semi-domesticated reindeer. And there's an intimate connection between humans and animals since millennia. The herding practice is part of that, and it's similar around the world. And we have the expertise is being transferred from generation to generations. Herders learn from early childhood. Here we have some image from Gällivare Forest Sámi village by Henrik Andersson. The springtime, the new year that begins with the calves are born. Just an image of the tax lands that you can find in Gudrun Norstedt's PhD dissertation to learn about the territories that were stolen. The reindeer herding area in Sámi territories is here, as you can see, corresponding to the map that is usually shown as Sápmi. Yeah. I just want to mention also the importance of reindeer herding. The reindeer was the reason people started being able to inhabit in the north, following the reindeer. And the reindeer can live on its own. It's not like a cow. It finds its own food. It survives as long as it can have access and is not disturbed. It feeds on lichen. I believe it's the only animal that feeds on lichen. And it also contributes to the biodiversity by grazing. And this is not, in the north is not no wilderness. It's cultural landscape managed by Sámi in collaboration with reindeer since thousands of years. Today, not many Sámi are directly involved in reindeer herding, yet reindeer herding is at the core of Sámi culture, protection of lands and waters for arts and livelihood and food. So this is being threatened by the so-called green transition. And here I've placed the wind power projects planned and today's reindeer herding territories. And the film we will see is from Gällivare Forest Sámi reindeer herding territory that is still spared from wind power, but they are struggling to keep it that way. And to also make you understand that it's not just the wind power that's a problem. There's a lot of other things, so like mining, railroads, any kind of quarries, hydropower, like all kind of intrusions, and military, not also to mention. So wind power is but the latest. And now we're gonna see the film that is 7 minutes and 33 seconds, and see if we can manage. And this is from a superdisciplinary research and documentary project. And it was funded by FORMAS, earlier projects. So within the Swedish National Research Program on Climate, I should mention. See now if it works.
Now we're standing on our reindeer husbandry land, where my ancestors have lived for thousands of years. And the government-owned Swedish power company Vattenfall wants to build wind power in all these mountains that we see behind here. First they're taking away logging the forest and taking all the lichen from the trees, from the old trees, from our reindeers, and later they have turned around the soil for growing new plants. And now they also want to destroy the land with roads and blowing up new mountains to material for the roads. Everything will be changing, and we are afraid that our land is even more raped. And all the views and the reindeer maybe not can be there for many years, or maybe ever they can be, as long as the windmill is standing there. It's what we see from researchers and other Sámi communities that have wind power, is that it's only bad for the reindeer herding. And my home village is over there behind that mountain. It will be surrounded by windmills if it will be like Vattenfall wants. The view will be windmills, not forest and nature. This land belongs to Swedish-owned forest company Sveaskog, and it's also the windmill project also is owned by Vattenfall, that is Swedish-owned energy company. And almost all the land that the windmills will stand on is government owned by Sveaskog. And they already have taken all the forest from here, because this was before was long pine trees that was old with a lot of lichen hanging from, and now it's only grass and will be leaves and things like that, because they have turn around the soil and make it not so nice. It was nice land to walk on and being on, but now it's a field for forest plantation. For summer grazing is okay because it's the grass they're eating, but that is not our problem. We have the swamps and we have a lot of summer grazing. We have very much summer land. It's the winter land we need and the lichen. Because of the modern forest use, it's almost extinct the lichen that hanging from trees, because of the age of the trees that cut down today is about 80 years old, and only a few years ago the shortest age of what you can take down was 120 years, and then they drop it to 100, and then it's 90 and it's 80, and soon it will be 70 or something, because they have no old forest left, and they need to have the cubic with forest to the industry. It need to be 70 years or older before the lichen coming and hanging from the trees. This is a mountain they have broken to small pieces of stones to make the roads for taking out the forest from the forest industry companies. And this will be many of if it's coming windmills, because they need new roads, the bigger roads that can hold heavier loads of trucks to bring the windmills to the places where they will put, and also the concrete and everything. And then you need a thick layer of small broken rocks, and then they do like this and destroy the nature, and they do it outside what they're speaking about, because the exploiter only speak about the windmills, not about where they take material to the roads, this is never coming to when we speak about it with the windmill companies. They're seeing small part of the things. They not see the whole picture of it. The whole picture is that our land will be windmills, and our mountains will be break down as crushed to small pieces of rocks to the roads. This is a nature reservation that is in the north part of the windmill project area, and it will be surrounded by windmills. And when you're coming to this kind of forest, you'll be happy. You feel the historic and the how it should look like, not like plant forest. This is how the Sámi want the forest. Our animal want the forest. It's how a forest should look like, and it's like a garage of things you can get from here. You get the mushrooms, the berries, the things for making handicraft, everything you found in old forest. You found exactly everything you need, and you feel good. When you see old forest like this, you feel good. You feel the historic, you feel the nature, the quietness. It's no tracks from any forest machine that are driving, and the soil is not put up and down, and you see old trees lying on the ground, and you see like trees that have growing 500 years ago maybe. Maybe this pines behind me is 300 years and being dead for 50, and the one that lying down, you don't know how old they are, but you feel the history. So it's like you're feeling great from being on such a places. It's so much nature. And when I was a small boy, it was a lot of places like this. It's many places looking like this, but the forest company have taken more and more and more of the old forest that we have. So now it's only like reservation left. Sweden is good to complain on other countries, but themselves have taken almost all the old forest in, at least in our areas.
Yep. And then we have, now we're going to invite Inger Helene Groik, chair of the Ginjavare for, not forest, Sámi village, Ginjavare Sámi village.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yes, my name is Inger Helene Groik, and I'm the chair of Ginjavare Sámi reindeer herding community. We are a Sámi community in northwestern Jämtland County. We have around 50 members from 0 to 100 years. And we manage reindeer herding from the mountains to the coast. The community is allowed a maximum of 4,800 reindeers in the winter herd, which means after the slaughtering. And we divide ourselves into 5 winter groups in autumn. That means smaller groups that make it easier to manage grazing on the winter grazing lands. In the Hotagsfjällen mountain, we are during the snow-free season from April to October, depends on when snow melting in springtime and how autumn seems to be with snow. And now you can change the slide, please.
Yep, done.
As you can see, we are located in the middle of Sweden. The green areas on the map are grazing areas. The blue area are core areas that are more important for grazing. And the red areas, the key area, are so important that without them, the grazing land becomes unusable. The yellow lines on the map are our migration routes. They are specially protected by law and extremely important for us to be able to move between the grazing lands. This is the entire area where the reindeers of the Sámi community migrate. Depends on the season. The Sámi community winter grazing lands are heavily fragmented by forestry, infrastructure, tourism, hydroelectric power, and subsequently wind farms. Yep, you can change. Since 2007, we have been involved in numerous negotiations and court proceedings to try to explain that wind power and reindeer herding cannot coexist. The largest project had over 1,500 turbines in application. This project would cut off 2 migration routes and split the winter grazing area in 2. We ended up in court, even at the highest instance, and achieved only small success. One of the judges in the case later mentioned that they would never have ruled in favor of the company if it were today. As a last resort, we reported the company to OECD, where we were supposed to receive help to negotiate with the company. As you can see, we have plenty of already built wind farms on our grazing lands. Yep, change slide. Since the wind farms were built, we have learned that it's very difficult to coexist. The reindeer either avoid the areas with the parks because there is a lot of light and noise. These avoidance effects cause them to change their routes and wander into areas they would never have chosen otherwise. This in turn leads to mixing with other Sámi communities and mixing within the community's own groups. All of this results in an enormous amount of extra work for the reindeer herders. Other reindeer enter the parks and get lost. There are many roads that are constantly plowed and cars moving around, pushing the reindeer ahead of them. It's very difficult to gather the reindeer in the park. The wind farm are cutting up our grazing land in smaller pieces, and we have already a lot of other fragmentation that pushes us and our reindeer in smaller and smaller areas. We have to cover the costs of lawyers and court cases ourselves. This means that we cannot fight all the legal proceedings and have to choose the one that caused the most damage. As a result, when we lose a good piece of land, a less suitable area may end up having support a winter herd in future. And on the picture you can see the blue roots are our migration, and you can see the biggest wind farm we have. It's about 800 mills. Yes, you can change slide. As you can see, Gingeberg has contributed significantly to the so-called green transition. Add to that the further fragmentation of the land, and you can understand that our grazing resources are decreasing dramatically. And for us to have any change to coping with the climate change that are becoming increasingly common today, we must have access to varied grazed lands and areas where the reindeer can move. Excuse me. Where the reindeer can move undisturbed. I have not mentioned the increased workload that this extra work entails, the psychosocially impossible equation to working with reindeer while also having time to watch your children grow up, or dealing with the worry and anxiety that the reindeer might wander off into completely wrong areas, causing conflicts between groups. I would like to plant a thought in the mind of those listening. Is it the right path to take more land to compensate the runaway consumption we have in our world? Wouldn't it be better if we all learn to manage the resources we already have? Finally, I want to recommend this book, in which our former chairperson, Marianne, talks about the legal proceeding regarding wind power and how we have handled them within the Sámi village. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Helene. And there will be, you're staying on for the questions afterwards?
Yes.
Yes, great. Thank you. Okay, so now we're moving on to the section with the master students' presentations, and they will take charge of this. I just want to say that the ārrāmat project will be introduced here. It was not introduced in the beginning, so but Sorig will speak about that and the SING Sábme briefly as well. Okay, you can take this. Oh, you're going to say something first. Okay, sorry.
Yes, I will just quickly say that we will have the students present one after the other. So please keep note of your questions and input. And after all presentations and the commentators, there will be space for questions. So I leave the floor to Batsorik.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. and today I'll be talking about the ongoing work that I am doing with the ārrāmat project. Just to quickly introduce myself, I'm a student at Uppsala University and an intern for ārrāmat project Pathway 5. So what is the ārrāmat project? It's a significant initiative. Significant initiative supporting Indigenous-led place-based project. It's funded by the Canadian government, and it functions as a funding and collaborative platform that is centered on strengthening Indigenous leadership, capacity, and knowledge in order to address complex global challenges related to the environment, health, and well-being. And overall, it has 10 global transformation pathways. And currently around the globe, there are over 80 Indigenous-led place-based projects that are being supported by the ＡРRAMAT project. So within this project, I assist the Pathway 5. My work includes setting up webinars, podcasts, and the literature review that is currently ongoing of Indigenous scholarship work with the theme of decolonizing science and education. And I also work with an overview of the Indigenous-led place-based projects, investigating how they work with decolonizing science and education. For this presentation, I have looked into the successful grant proposals and existing documents to highlight the core strategic areas. And here you can see the locations of the place-based projects and the projects that have incorporated Pathway 5 goals into their proposals. And then those proposals or those place-based projects use very diverse methodologies, so including storytelling, capacity building, and collaborative curriculum design in order to challenge the current educational system that we have, the current Western educational system, and how we do science. So the Pathway 5 strategic plan is founded on the necessity of destabilizing colonial structures in education and research. So based on the strategic work plan and the project proposals, here I identify the necessity of destabilization addressed through 3 core strategic areas, so which are Indigenous governance, capacity building, and cultural revival. And out of all the proposals, I have selected 3 projects as an example. So the first one is SING Sábme, which is 100% Indigenous-led, and it is building Indigenous capacity through training and knowledge sharing, specifically facilitating the transfer of both traditional as well as scientific knowledge between elders, youth, and community members. And it's done through an experiential on-the-land learning. And I really like how it specifically challenges the conventional scientific methods in order to ensure Indigenous control, the knowledge and research control by and with Indigenous people. And in addition, the project also commits to prioritizing any sensitive data, and then the need for those protection of that data, and then how it protects the local community when it comes to data and sensitive materials. And the second example is the Samson Cree Land to Lab Camp. It is based in Canada, and what they do is that they prioritize Indigenous science in collaboration with University of Alberta by bringing youth and elders together in order to participate in field sampling and analysis in the university engineering lab setting, and then help them translate those into specific Indigenous knowledge and as well as scientific publications. And third is a project proposed by Sámi Research Association in Finland. This project is deeply rooted in Sámi cultural terminology and practice, and aims to provide opportunities to share their ecological, cultural, and social knowledge intergenerationally. It also aims to restore Sámi traditional principles of sustainable living and Sámi environmental law through the agency of elders and the community. So overall, I have looked at around 50 proposals, and all the proposals and the place-based projects are led by an example to demonstrate how science and education can be done differently, that is sustainable, inclusive, and adaptable. And then at the same time, there's some some researchers are calling a change in how we do science, particularly natural science. And then they are voicing their opinion and saying that it should include and respect indigenous communities, rights, and knowledge. And thank you.
Thank you, Bazurik. It was a wonderful presentation. So I'll begin here. Hello, everyone. Myself is Naim Islam, and I'm an intern at the Powering Change with Justice project, and also I'm a master's student in sustainable development at Uppsala University. And previously, I have worked as an environment officer, also an officer anticipatory action for World Bank funded project, and also in GFFO funded project in Bangladesh. So in this internship, my core task is to find the pollution from wind powers in Sámi reindeer herding areas. And to investigate that, my core focus was to identify the pollution, particularly microplastic and PFAS from the wind power plants, and understanding the role of regional authorities that we call NSTIRLs in monitoring this kind of pollution from wind power. So, so far I have studied several scientific journals and articles and the harmful effects of PFAS and microplastic to humans and animals. So one of the key issue at the stake is that microplastic and PFAS are released from wind power plants. And first of all, I have found that the polyfluoroalkyl substance are called the forever chemicals because it does not decompose naturally. And secondly, there are like 32,000 tons of microplastics are released worldwide from different sources to the environment. So the research ongoing, and both the microplastic and PFAS cause humans a lot of damages. First of all, the defects to the reproduction system increase the risk of cancers, especially kidney, prostate, and testicular cancers. Okay, now come to the method that I have been analyzing here. So inquiring to the land stewards to email websites, their official websites, and follow-up interviews that I'll be doing next, and analyzing the environmental impact assessment made by different wind power companies. And those are the wind power companies that building those wind powers near to the Sámi reindeer herding areas. So I have inquired their websites and emailed them about like what are the pollution measures they are taking, or what are the investigation they are doing currently. And I'm doing this in Norrbotten. You can see in this map, Norrbotten, Västerbotten, Jämtland, Western Norrland, Gävleborg, and Dalarna. And the other map you can see is the seasonal reindeer grazing areas, and it's in different seasons. So the responses I have got from the county administrative boards are here. So Jämtland, they said they don't analyze any kind of wind power pollution or the contamination from the pollution. Western Norrland, they said they have some case studies on oil spillage. And there are some pre-studies or the environmental impact assessment report from the companies they have. And Norrbotten, they have said we only have the environmental impact assessment report from the companies, nothing else. But I haven't got any responses from Västerbotten, Dalarna, and Gävleborg. So the findings from the Bavariet wind farm in Western Norrland, and you can see here, like the microplastic are released from the gradual erosion from the wind power blades, and they are aware of that. Also, the amount of microplastic are released there is like 1 kilogram of microplastic over 10 to 12 years. And it's on the report. Also, there are several wild spillage occurrence in that area, and from 2015 to 2025, there are total 68 incidents of wild spillage in that area. And you can see on the map the location where this wind farm is. Okay, this is a closer look on that. Okay, now comes to a vital point. Like you can see a close look of the wind power farms. And here you can see all the wind farms near to the streamline or the river where it flows down to the coastline. And there are some wetlands around it. So during winter, the snow comes and it mixes with the pollution or PFAS, the microplastic there. And when the season changes, these ice melting water carry those pollutants and it spread all over the areas. So my next target is to analyze what is the buffer zone of it and how is contaminating the areas. And finally, this is a spatial visiting place in Norrbotten, and this is called Riktidukas. And you can see in the picture with the lovely reindeers here. Thank you all.
All right, hello. I've never worn one of these headsets before. I feel very important right now. Hello to everybody in the room. Hello, everybody who's online. It's great to hear that so many people joined. My name is Milena Weber. I'm a student of sustainable development here at Uppsala University. I'm also an intern in this project, Powering Change. And originally I'm from Germany and Ireland. I did my bachelor's degree at Leuphana University in Germany. So I'm working within work package 2 within this project, which is focusing on policy analysis, the blue stream. And so for the past couple of months, I've been looking at EU level and Swedish policies that push for wind energy developments and analyzing how they impact indigenous rights. And that's what I'm gonna present today. So these are some of the relevant policies that I've been able to find on the EU level. This is just a snapshot because there's a plethora of them. Some important ones here, Critical Raw Materials Act and the Renewable Energy Directive. And then there's the regulation to accelerate renewables permitting and the EU Wind Charter. That's just a few. On the Swedish level, it looks a little bit more condensed. We have the Reindeer Husbandry Act, Minerals Act, Consultations Act, the Environmental Code, the Minority Act, and the Planning and Building Act. So what do the experts say about these laws and policies? How well are we equipped to protect indigenous rights? The answer, unfortunately, is not great. So for the EU level is not very heavily, hasn't been researched a lot. There's been some research on the Critical Raw Materials Act. And this research finds that it consistently sacrifices Sámi and nature rights for strategic goals. It actively contradicts international standards on indigenous rights. For example, as was mentioned earlier, it doesn't at all consider free, prior, and informed consent. This is also the case for the Renewable Energy Directive. And Sámi knowledge played no role in the policy development, plays no role in its implementation. And a striking example is also this Just Transition Fund, which foresees support only for workers and businesses within our Western capitalist economy and not for indigenous society. So how does this look on the Swedish level? There's also no free, prior, and informed consent. Generally, there's a lack of inclusion and transparency in policymaking and land use planning and in the permitting process. And there's no provision under the Consultation Act or any under law that affects land use planning that obligates decision makers to take Sámi opinions and views and their knowledge into account. There is the Minority Act, but that is not consistently applied across projects. So Sámi are instead forced to turn towards corporate consultations, which are by design aimed towards fast tracking the designer's interests. And when Sámi people do decide to participate or to file complaints, for example, in court, This poses an extremely high financial and administrative burden and takes a lot of time. So thank you, Inger-Helena, for sharing your personal experiences with that too. There's no support from the Swedish or the EU level for Sámi people in these cases. So if we zoom into the permit process, there is an impact assessment that needs to be done, but this is found to be heavily inadequate in many aspects. Just to name a few, it's conducted by the developers, so it's in no way independent or transparent. There is no or insufficient consideration of impacts towards reindeer herding, towards human rights, towards social rights, culture rights, and there's no consideration of cumulative impact. So how do all of these impacts play together to create something bigger? And so to conclude, the Swedish legislative landscape is riddled with industrial colonialism and extractivist logics. And everything that I've spoken about so far, this only affects the policies and the permit regulations. So I haven't even brushed upon how Sámi people are actively discriminated against in these consultation processes, or how the law is not applied or not equally applied in courts, and all of the bureaucratic barriers that state officials face when they do try to consult Sámi people. And there are many, many studies that talk about this as well. So what's next for me in this project? For the rest of my internship, I will prepare a mixed survey that is directed towards civil servants and politicians in the municipalities and the county administrative boards that have reindeer herding territories, because they have a lot of the responsibility and the decision-making power in these processes. And so we want to find out how much do they even know about the impacts of wind energy expansion, to what extent do they care, and how do they perceive their own agency in these processes. And then in my master's thesis, starting in January, I will conduct a political discourse analysis turning towards the EU level. So looking at EU policies and other related EU documents, specifically how do they consider indigenous and nature rights, because this has not been done really yet. And how do they describe this just transition? So who's this justice for, specifically looking at narratives of acceleration and increased energy demand. So thank you very much. Please feel free to reach out to me. This is my email address if we don't manage to catch up after. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. My name is William, and I'm a master's student at the Stockholm Resilience Centre. I'm doing my master's thesis with the project group Powering Change with Justice. And today I'm going to share with you what I'm working on with my master's thesis. So the title of my thesis is Follow the Wind, Telecoupled Impacts of Wind Energy Developments in Northern Sweden. So my work is mainly with the work package 1 of the project, which is mainly understanding the impacts of wind energy expansion in Sweden through a telecoupling lens. The focus area of my study would be Norrbotten, Västerbotten, Jämtland, and Västernorrland, which this area has a lot of overlap with traditional Sámi herding land. I have gathered some statistics from the Swedish Energy Agency. We can see that from the graph here. The green bar is the growth in wind energy in these 4 counties, and the white bar is for the rest of Sweden. We can see that the growth is a lot faster in the focus area of our study. And there's also the historical context that, as May-Britt has mentioned earlier, there are like different developments in this area. So this focus area is also very important for hydropower. For example, like the Luleå River is crucial for stabilizing the electricity grid in Sweden. So after hydropower, now is wind energy. So my thesis would be adopting a framework called the telecoupling framework. It is a framework that is very useful to study how local developments are affected by, for example, investment, policy, technology decisions by other places. In this case, in our case, it would be, for example, the rest of Sweden and other European countries. So here are my research questions. The first one is, what are the energy and economic flow of wind energy developments in northern Sweden. The second one is what are the positive impacts of these flows and who benefit from them. The third one is what are the negative impacts of this development and who bears the cost. So the obvious benefit of wind energy development would, of course, is the energy. And another one is the economic benefit associated with selling the energy generated. So to understand where the energy goes, we first need to understand how much I was talking about, like, so we need to understand like how much energy is produced. So we can see that the wind energy contribute to like about 24.6% of total energy produced in the focus area, which is the Norrbotten, Västerbotten, Jämtland, and Western Norrland. And meanwhile, the proportion of whole Sweden in 2023 is only 20%. So we can see the growth in wind energy so fast in our focus area, they already surpassed the Swedish average. And for the nature of electricity, since it's homogeneous, so electricity consumed has the same composition as the average generation mix. So my estimation of where wind energy goes is based on the generation mix, which is how much energy is produced. So where does the energy goes? According to the statistics from the Swedish government, only 30% of the energy generated in the focus area is consumed locally, which means a majority, 70% of it is sent away to other parts of Sweden and also export to other European countries. And they are mainly export to Finland, Denmark, Lithuania, Poland, Germany, and Norway. Next, we can zoom in a little bit to look at how the energy is consumed locally in these 4 counties. And one thing to highlight is that over 50% of it is consumed on industry and construction. There are some, for example, some examples of the big industry consumers are like LKAB, which is a mining company, SSAB is a steel company, and Smurfit Kappa, which is a big paper manufacturer in Sweden. So far, I've done some of the mapping of the energy flow. The next step, I would try to estimate the economic benefit, who actually earn the money or get the economic benefit from these wind energy developments. And then I will also try to do a qualitative study on the impacts on local actors. So that will be the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening. And if you have anything you want to share or you know about impacts, feel free to get in touch and it will be very helpful for my study. Thank you very much.
Yes. Okay. So I'm taking my degree on the Nordic Institute of Latin American Studies, and I'm an intern at the Parent Change with Justice project. And today I'm talking about the wind developments and the impact on indigenous traditional people in Brazil. The methodology that I used was basically a qualitative scan. I went through Brazilian media and scholars and did a literature review. From all the results that I got using specific search terms, I select 20 articles from each to work with. Some common objections from indigenous traditional communities regarding the wind developments. It's mainly about how invasive it is on their territories. Sometimes they invade sacred places. They cannot fully live on the way they used to. The loss of land for raising animals or for growing crops. Also environmental damage, as the increase of the river temperatures, decrease of animal population, deforestation, and also impact on mental and physical health. There is not more case of depression, anxiety, panic attacks. Some people need now to take pills, even kids. And some specialists are talking about a turbine syndrome that is being studied in people that live close to those developments.
Those are some of the terms that pop up a lot during my research, and I will highlight 3 of them. The first one is the green grabbing. Basically, when talking about the energy transition, the researchers talk about green grabbing because those companies are making wind as a commodity. In that way, they create like accumulation by dispossession of something that should not be a commodity. Green facade, because of the rhetoric of green energy, because they push those rhetorics and you can't really go against it without sounds wrong. And environmental racism, because of where the accumulation of wind farms are concentrated in Brazil. It is mainly on northwest of the country, where the population is on majority non-white and also poorer than the rest of the country, a lot of illiterate people. And the conclusion so far that I could come with the research is that the government should take this matter more seriously, meaning like Brazil follows the IOL 169, but we don't have a federation, like a federative law regarding the how to protect traditional indigenous people's rights. The closest that we have is a law that was approved last August, but it was a law that was in process for 20 years to take the approval. So it has a lot of setbacks, and they are trying to find a way to accommodate better, but it doesn't, from the point of view of researchers that are looking to this law, it doesn't really look good because it doesn't really talk about indigenous or traditional people rights. It is about licensing, like the process of licensing those developments. Traditional communities such as quilombolas and family farmers, they are even more marginalized than indigenous people, since they have less rights to their lands. In fact, they don't own their lands. They only have the right to use the land. So they are more vulnerable. The contracts signed with the communities are not transparent about the clauses. And also the way they came with the contracts, like they make older people, elderly people to sign contracts for 30, 40, 50 years in front. Regarding energy justice, the communities living in this area, they often have low quality electricity or no electricity at all, even though they live 10 kilometers from the wind turbine. They usually don't have energy because the energy doesn't go to the community. It goes to a center. In this center, it is sold to data centers, shopping centers, the agro business in Brazil. So they don't have any benefits. And according to some authors, the fact that the growing wave of wind developments in Northwest Brazil keeps just growing, it will increase the social discrepancy, and the environmental racism will become even more evident and a bigger issue on society. And just to show off a table, this is from 2021. By now, the numbers, it's almost 3 times this. If you can see, like the first half of the table is from the states of Northeast, and the second half is from South Brazil. So it is very different, the numbers. You can see how the concentration is on Northeast Brazil. And here it's a map. Yes, map. On the left side, you can see across the whole country. On the right side, you can see how the concentration it is on Northeast and close to the coast. Right now, they are implanting offshore wind turbines, which is also it is starting to become a worry for researchers. And yeah, that was it. Thank you.
Well, great. Is it on? Yeah. Thank you so much, students, master students, and for presenting. I think this is just short presentations for insights, what we're doing, and it's like very exciting. Now we have time for first start with comments. And of course, we spent already more time than we planned for, but we'll ask for short comments from our commenters and then open up for questions and answers. Can we open the so we can see like the front, our student master technicians here.
Open the camera.
And you can all. Yeah. Like that. So yeah, like that. And you come in here. So we start with so we have one on site, and you'll have to speak in that one.
Yeah, I can do that.
Are you visible? Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to speak into that. So Eva Forsgren,
Yeah.
you can introduce yourself and say what you think about our presentation so far.
Okay. Eva Forsgren, I'm here from Uppsala. I don't work at the university. I belong to the Uppsala Sámi Association, and I'm very much involved in human rights. It was very, very interesting, and I certainly want to take part of your work later on. It's important to not just collect arguments that are considered soft, but you really need the harsh and clear numbers. So it's very important. I was thinking about when you were talking about the Critical Raw Material Act. It's a shortcut to speed up the permitting of the process for strategic mining. It's a shortcut to money, and also it's critical because of the high economic importance, of course. So a shortcut to money. And someone else was William. We were talking about the export. It's money. So this green label on everything, you have to be very careful to use that. We usually talk about a green colonialism instead of just the green transition. It's a new form of colonialism. And I think we ought to hear more about, like you were talking about the telecoupling. I don't think people know that. And it's really, it should be really easy to understand for people, because you do something here and it affects something over here. It's just that people don't think about it. So you have a very, very important job there. Joanna, you talked about the clean energy and green energy. Same thing there. Is it really clean? Is it really green? That's what we talk about a lot. And oh, there I am. And what else? I will follow this with great interest, as I said. I think that, well, maybe someone else has something to say about your, I will leave the word to someone else and come back later.
Yeah, thank you so much. We'll continue with the next commenter who's with us online. That's Henrik and Hampus. Can we see you now? Try to open your...
We not can
Henrik
see.
Andersson.
We not can see, but we have the sound. We not
Okay,
have the
please say
camera
what
working.
your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm Henrik Andersson, and my thoughts is that it was very interesting. The first student that have the speak. I was really interested of the amount of microplastic and this that is spreading. I think it's really important that it's need to consider the need of land for the reindeer herding, because you can make money very easy, as Eva say, and they want shortcuts to the money. But I mean, we have been here for thousands of years and still contribute to the society, and we are very green with reindeer herding, and that must be more appreciated. And now it's a lot of speak about if it's war or crisis, that it need to be self-sufficient in Sweden, and the reindeer herding have the right opportunities to be a big part of that. But the more industry coming, the less possibilities it is for us. I don't know what more to say. It was a good movie also.
Yeah, thank you. Hampus, is Hampus still there?
Yes.
You want to say something?
Yeah, I think it was very good speeches you had there. I like the one that had a little picture of me driving reindeers also. Yeah, but it was really good speeches. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, so I can mention that Henrik Andersson and Hampus Andersson, so it's father and son, both reindeer herders within Gällivare Forest Sámi village, and been the Flackaberg group there has been hosting this SING Sábme, the summer internship for Indigenous peoples in genomics that we're working with, funded by the ＡRRAMAT project. So we made some studies to identify pollution in the land by soil sampling with our colleagues. Yes, can somebody stop this sharing? Yeah, please.
The SING Sábme was very interesting, and we can direct the researchers to the way that what we want to know. So I can recommend the SING Sábme. It's really, really important that the indigenous people can direct the researchers on the questions that we want to have answers on.
Yeah, thank you. So, and we also have Eva Charlotta Hillsdotter, who is associate professor in water security here at Uppsala University, who's been we've been collaborating for 2 decades by now.
Yes, thank you for a really interesting presentation. Yeah, lots of questions and thoughts about this, but I think it's really important to question the premises, as you all, as Eva mentioned, for instance, that the thing that it's green, clean, the wind power has never been able to be produced without oil or fossil fuel. It has always, as you saw in the film, it's a lot of fossil fuel used to produce, to build, to construct, to maintain, and everything is it always needs fossil fuel, and it's not green in any way. And as long as universities and politicians are pushing this green agenda, I think it's very important to change the narrative, and I'm not sure how to do it, but I think it's very important to question the premises. And that's also connected to when you talk about how much microplastic is emitted per year. There was some figures there. And then you have to think where does the statistics come from? Who is producing the statistics? Because it's the environmental impact assessment is usually done by the companies, and the companies come up with the figures. So those interested in building are also responsible for the statistics and the figures. So I would be careful with figures from organization pushing this, and that is including also the government and the energy department, because this is a huge thing. I mean, the politics and the policies and the agenda, the narrative is that wind power is the solution. So, yeah, just a portion there.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, we'll have some time now for questions from the floor, both in here and from the panel attendees online. But Sora will check. He has some. We can start if there's some questions from there, and then in the room we will. Do we have anyone online?
We do have a question for William. From
Is the sound on, that one?
It's on.
It's on?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, the question is, in your research questions, how are you defining positive and negative impacts? According to whose criteria, what is positive for one actor might be negative for another? How will you account for this ontological diversity?
Who's the question for?
It's for William.
Okay.
Hello. Thank you very much for the question. It's a very, very good question. Intuitively, I was thinking.
You come here so you can. You'll be seen in the camera. You see? Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much for the question. Intuitively, I would be saying benefit is like the energy produced or the economic benefit produced, and the negative impacts may be like loss of land intuitively. But I guess after seeing your question, I guess my first reflection is I need to be more careful in trying to define these things. Like there are, of course, people who benefit from a certain change and lose for certain change. So I guess one is I need to think about like for whom or for who, for whom, and impact to who and to whom. I guess this would be a question that I need to keep reflecting on and maybe seek more advice from my supervisors and researchers in the project. Thank you very much for the question.
Thank you. So we'll see if there are questions here on the floor. Anyone wants to ask? You're all good. Do we have any more questions from online? Everybody's all exhausted now from. Oh. But you can always, yeah. Anna?
I have a question for Inger-Helene. You mentioned that in the court process, you mentioned one judge said that they would not judge in favor of the company if it were today. And could you develop why? What has changed since the process?
I don't really know what he had in his thought, but this procedure was in 2012, and we were about the first in Sweden, first Sámi village in Sweden that had this fragmentation of wind power, and then it was very massive from the state that it was a green. It was very good with wind power, and it will help us to change from the fossil and the Sámi, the reindeer herders were just a big problem that was screaming a lot, and they had to get us quiet. And now we have very much wind powers in Sweden, and the courts are a little bit more helpful for the Sámi herders, Sámi villages, and they have understand the miljöbalken and how to secure our grazing lands a little bit more. Not good, but a little bit better than for 10 years ago. I think that is the answer I have.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions or something? No? Do we have anyone from the project? I see Amanda or Vanessa is online, or anyone else? Michaela Lee, do you want to say something? Everyone's happy. You want to say something? Yep.
Well, thank you again. May-Britt talked about the importance of the reindeer for the whole Sámi people, not only the reindeer herders. And I would just like to emphasize that again, that the whole Sámi community is we're following and we are supporting the Sámi village struggles. Because you hear it's becoming more and more popular to talk about, well, there's only a few Sámi that are reindeer herders. So, well, we know that already. You don't have to tell us that. But I would like to emphasize that. We are all standing behind the Sámi villages and their struggles.
Yeah. Thank you, Eva. Yeah, we have a question. Okay.
Thanks. Sorry, I hope I'm not holding you now that you hoped you might have been going. Oh,
You'll be on camera if you want here, if that's okay with you.
it doesn't
Please come in.
matter.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your presentations, first of all. It was very interesting. I'm in the first year of the Masters in Sustainable Development, so nice to see what the second year might look like. I might have missed something, but I had a question to Milena about the mixed survey you're planning, and what kind of research questions you are hoping to pose to the policymakers. And yeah, sorry if I missed something.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. No, don't worry. I did not go into detail much. It's all sort of under development because we have very limited time for the internship. I'm doing it with Nate. We're doing it together. So we're still sort of figuring all of that out. We're focusing first on trying to figure out how does this process even work, because it's extremely complex. So who's responsible? How do we reach them? And yeah, then basically the three aspects of the survey will be the knowledge, the care, and the agency. So how much do they know about impacts? Where do they get their knowledge from? Like, do they even read the impact assessments, for example? Then there's the care aspect, which we're going to try and get through sense of place theory. So how attached are they to the place where they work? How do they see it? What motivates them to work and to make the decisions that they do? And then there's the agency aspect, which is, do they even feel like they have any power, or do they just feel like they're just a fan in the wind, basically? Yeah, that's roughly it. We're still figuring out the exact questions and everything. Hope that answered your question.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions online? No? In the room? Comments? Thoughts? Nice one.
Okay. Another question for Milena. When looking at Sweden's treatment of Sámi people at various levels of governance, will you be looking at all at UN mechanisms like ILO 169 and the impact that ratification could have, or the consequences of not ratifying?
Thank you for the question. Yeah, I've been asking myself that too. There's so much that I want to look into. But again, unfortunately, limited time. So I'm going to be focusing on the EU. Obviously, the ILO ratification or non-ratification plays a role here. So it will be mentioned for sure, it will play a role, but it's not what I'm going to be focusing on. I'm going to be focusing on EU policies and related documents, specifically that push for an acceleration and solidifying this increased energy demand in the context of renewable energy. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Any other questions or sits? No, no. Well, thank you so much. Thank you all in the room. Thank you for students, co-researchers and commenters, presenters, Inger Helén, and from Henrik and Hampus, and I'm so happy we pulled this. We worked a lot with preparing for this one, and it's really exciting and interesting. And I think we'll be back with more ahead. Hey! Thank you. I'm going to stop the recording.